welcome back here to my Baron Respawn Timer. I am here to do my updated power rankings after a chaotic week number 2 in the LCS where nothing makes sense anymore because everybody beats everybody and CLG's in last. So really not sure how everything will continue to progress through this. I made my expectations about how 11.3 would affect this past week of the LCS, and I was pretty far off. So starting to see a little more shakeups there in the jungle pool with Dardoch existing and then Blabber bringing in the Rek'Sai after getting target banned 5 times. So seeing a little bit of shakeup here, but not a whole lot of change. And it's not really too surprising. But I do like what the mid laners are doing, bringing in some Tristanas and Lucians, bringing a little more damage, bringing the Rumble back a time or two. We're on the verge of some experimentation. We're just not quite there yet. And with that, let us get ourselves into the mess that is the power rankings. Coming back in at the number 1 spot is going to be Cloud9 again. Even though they did drop that game to Evil Geniuses, they still look like the best team that is on the Rift currently. Their macro play is just too much for the other teams to handle. Blabber always gets ahead. Their mid lane and top lanes, they're both able to continue to succeed regardless of the matchup that they're put in. And we've found out that you can target ban Blabber 5 times. He's going to pull out a Rek'Sai that is going to 1v3 your backline. And it doesn't matter what you do against this team, they always find a way that they're going to be coming out on top. It's a very experienced team. It's going to be hard to beat in crunch time. They're hard to beat now in the regular season. And I can only imagine it's going to get more difficult. They're probably going to stay top 2, top 3 all spring. In the second spot, we're going to have 100 Thieves, and apart from their loss to Cloud9, this team is firing on all cylinders. They can rely on any one of their players to carry and cover the mistakes that they do end up making. Clozo's really stepped up to do some solid PvE that he was able to play out against Team Liquid. That helped them secure that virtually nearly every single objective in that game without any contest, partly because of the fact that all of his lanes were winning or ahead. We can expect more bangers between Cloud9 and this team as the season progresses, and that is what I am excited for, especially come playoffs, because we have not seen the last best of 5 between them yet. Number 3, we're going to give it to TSM this week, surprisingly. And they take this spot because the LCS, as I said, doesn't make any sense. It used to be a line drawn through EG in 4th place, where kind of the top 3.5 teams made sense and then everyone else was chaos. Now it's the top 2 and the line is through TSM walking out. So they're a solid team, but they're prone to a lot of mistakes. Their drafts are getting better. They're starting to get that cohesiveness between the entire team and the players. And if the bot gets behind, we figured out that that is pretty much a game-ending situation. It's over. They're not going to win that. They've suffocated Team Liquid in their game against them and eventually snuffed out the flame to win that one. And Santorin, again, was not allowed to PvE like he usually does because TSM didn't allow it. There's signs of hope, but they're not there yet. 4th place forever is going to be Team Liquid, and Santorin not being able to PvE is a huge problem for this team. They rely on his jungle control to help their team really just feel safe in their lanes. He got away with it for the first week, but playing against teams that were ranked higher than him this last weekend obviously showed the cracks in the armor. They were both outclassed against 100 Thieves and TSM, and they played CLG, so that's just a free win anyways, but not the point. There's some work to be done on this team. They have some improvement to make working with each other. They could be really good as well, but there's just an inconsistency that's a problem. 5th place, we're going to give it to Dardoch because his backpack is full with his champion Ocean, as well as helping out his mid and bot lane just win out, giving them a 3-0 weekend, surprisingly. The game against Immortals was such a clown fiesta and chaotic that even though they're 4-2 overall, I can't feel comfortable putting them in a slot above Team Liquid when TL just has that roster. It's a great sign for Dignitas, but the biggest question is, can they keep this success up? Number 6, we're going to go to Evil Geniuses because how do you start with the win against arguably the best team in the LCS, against Cloud9, and then you drop to Immortals and Dignitas? It does not make any sense. Sure, the Dignitas game was pure chaos, and Immortals just dictated the pacing and the macro, and I can only assume that the high from beating Cloud9 made them complacent, made them a little cocky, a little egotistical that, okay, they're fine, they don't have to worry about it. Ended up dropping their next 2 games. This team is better than what the results of the weekend show, going 1-2 and losing to IMT and Dig, but the fact that they did drop those games against middle-of-the-pack teams speaks volumes. Number 7, we're going to go to FlyQuest. This team got a free win over CLG, as most people do, We'll get to that, which definitely helped them from dropping too far in the rankings this week. They showed signs of life early against Cloud9, but they were just choked out of the game eventually because Blabber is just good at doing that. It was a tough weekend facing off against two of the top teams, but that just means now it's going to get easier from here on out. They can start to stack a bunch of wins, pack them all in if they want to insert themselves in the conversation for the MSI playoffs or mid-season, midsummer, whatever it's called. Win now, success later. Profit. Number 8 is going to go to Immortals because the LCS does not make sense anymore. That's about the only explanation for their win over EG. Jizuke also was just kind of ending. There's not sure what happened. Couple towers, pings, question mark. TSM just outplayed this team and made great counterplays on any attempts that Immortals made to get back in the game. So they were making good attempts, but they were getting punished on the other side of the map. And Dignitas just kept getting their picks and forced his team to play them reactively and conservatively to try to find a way back in. Never could, and that's about the end of it. This is the first time really that it's just been unfortunate that they look for the opportunities, they just can't find them. Beating a team that beat C9 is a plus, but there's still a lot to clean up on the home front before this team's going to start moving up. Number 9, CLG. The only way CLG got to move up from last week is if GG went 0-3. I said they probably weren't going to, and then they did. Now CLG is going to be number 9. They're showing life in the early game to make plays. They got a lead in the first 10 minutes in virtually all of their games. Beyond that, they just don't know what is going on. They cannot close out the games. They can't get the win. They finally got their first win over Golden Guardians. That's why they did move up here, even if it wasn't very pretty. They have a lot of bot lane dives that just not working very well, but Zoe eventually came online, was doing tons of damage, and then Aatrox just didn't die. Plus, Brox is coming. There's hope. There's daylight on the horizon. Number 10, Golden Guardians. They checked off every single box they needed to drop to 10th place, and here they are, including losing to this commiserating CLG team. To give them credit, they looked decent against TSM, but lost got a couple of items. Game over. There's a large concern here on how often Niles keeps dying. He's got the most deaths in the entire league, and that needs to be fixed and fast. They have no objective control against Dignitas. They just kind of rolled over to CLG where they eventually would lose. I still think this team has potential to improve, but they haven't shown any signs through 2 weeks, and that's a problem. I'm pretty sure I went overtime again, but not by much. I got it down pretty good. A lot of the team's absolute chaos. I've decided I'm going to be leaving out this end section for kind of the preview of the week to come. So looking at, in order of where we're going on the upcoming schedule and the expectations I have. Cloud9 facing off against CLG, Dig, and TL, probably going to be a 3-0. Biggest challenge is going to be against TL with Blabber. If he gets ahead, then it's going to be fine. This team they're looking solid enough to probably pull out another full victory weekend. 100 Thieves have Immortals, TSM, GG. Another good chance to 3-0. They have a tough game against TSM, depending which TSM shows up. That wild card is concerning, which is why, the 3 games TSM has, FlyQuest, 100 Thieves, and Dignitas, they have a chance to 3-0, but you never know which TSM's going to show up. I expect probably a 2-1. Liquid forever 4th against GG, EG, and C9. Probably a 2-1 weekend. They're going to probably lose to C9, but that's kind of to be expected at this point. Anything other than that is meeting expectations for them. This team, they do have a solid foundation, but they play through the jungle a lot. And if Santorin isn't able to just kind of play in his comfort, then there's a lot of problems here for this team. Dignitas playing FlyQuest, Cloud9, TSM. It's going to be a test of how good this team actually is. They just put in that 3-0, but when they're playing these top 2 teams, going to be a real test of the capabilities this team is going to have. I expect a 1 and 2. I don't think they're going to be able to beat Cloud9, period.com. And TSM is going to be a real test. Like I said, TSM is kind of a wild card, though, so they might sneak out a win, but it's all depending on which TSM actually does show up. EG, after dropping down, they face against TSM, Team Liquid, and CLG. So not a great outlook for this squad. They got to bounce back because we thought they were a top team, and then the last weekend happened. Not really sure. They were kind of running it down. This could be a 1-2 or a 2-1 weekend for them. And the way this team plays, they're probably going to end up like beating Team Liquid and TSM and then lose to CLG because that's just the way that the LCS is now. FlyQuest facing off against Dig, GG, and IMT. I think they should have the goal to 3-0 this weekend. It's certainly feasible. They certainly have the ability to do so. And it's not going to be easy, but it is realistic to expect that they could 3-0. I would probably put more money on a 2-1, but there's a chance. Immortals facing off 100T, CLG, and FlyQuest definitely could come away with a 2-1 this weekend. But they do need to amp it up. The whole team really needs to crank it up on this one if they want to do that and play consistently at a higher pace of a game. They have an inconsistency that is a problem, and it leads me to think it might be a 1-2 weekend just because of the fact you can't always rely on it, but that's to be determined. This team is just a flip a coin sometimes. CLG, facing off against Cloud9 to open, that's just, yikes, L9. And then they have Immortals and EG, probably going to be a 1-2. I'd love to see a 2-1 weekend. I do not expect Broxah to play this weekend, but it is going to be huge. Just the fact of having him here. This was, on recording this, the 16th, Broxah's visa has been approved, so I imagine it's going to be like an overnight expedition where he packs up and comes to the U.S. I don't expect him to play this weekend, but I think just his presence alone might have an impact on this one, so they could walk away with the 2-1 and expect a bit of a honeymoon phase from CLG, especially if they bring Pobelter back, which is a whole different conversation. And last up, we have Golden Guardians that are facing against Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, and FlyQuest. So not great against a team that is already kind of spiraling right now. It's a very tough weekend for a team that just dropped into 10th place. They got to get Stixxay ahead. He has to be able to at least put the team on his back to help carry them through. Niles really, I understand it's his style to play a little more aggressive, but he's got to reel it in, especially against teams where you're facing off against like Someday and Alphari and Licorice. I mean, those are some of the best top laners in the league. And that's not a great sign where that is your current weak point. So they might just 0-3 again. I said they weren't going to do it last week. I didn't think so. They might do it again. I think it's going to be about 6 minutes of coverage and 6 minutes of expectations realistically. But from where we go from here, I need to get with my people so we can work through this. But until then, appreciate you watching. All my socials are going to be down below. I do this every week, so be sure to subscribe, ring the bell. Follow on Twitter. That's where I'm the most active, and you can see all of my nonsensical shit posts, predictions. My predictions were awful last week. It was terrible. But I did get the CLG game right. I did get their victory right. I called that one. Yeah. Thanks for watching. CLG fighting.